the northern part of Fort Worth in Tarrant County. I'm going to zoom back here for you and show you what we've got ahead of us. You can see we've got an exit ramp there. That's for FM 156. You can see just adjacent to that ramp is our sharp sign. The one 500 feet in advance. Our traffic counters are at the end of the section here. You see that box just at the top of the hill? That is obviously to avoid the ramp there at the beginning. You can see all the delineators and the signs were intact here. On this particular one, they put the sign immediately adjacent to the site, as opposed to out on the right-of-way line. I guess primarily because the right-of-way line here is not that clearly defined. I'm sure they know where it is, but there's lots of potential for getting it disturbed. On this particular section, there was enough traffic that's been over this section that the tine texture here is sufficiently worn away to make crack detection pretty easy. You can see all of the cracks fairly clearly. Other than transverse cracking in the test section, there really was no other distress to speak of. The lane shoulder joint is a little wide on this particular test section, say from 0.8 of an inch to as much as 1.5 inches. I would speculate that that's in part due to the fact that we've got an asphalt shoulder here as opposed to a concrete shoulder on the other two sections we looked at earlier this morning. That some of these cracks are again fairly tight. Here's one area where we've got the potential for some pretty interesting punch outs in the near future. Here's one where it you can see the crack. Fades out about halfway through the lane. Not really clear where it went to. We've got some more sections here comparable to a couple cracks here comparable to the ones we saw in the section on State Highway 121, section 4853. We've got a couple cracks where you can see what appears to be a gray material in there. I had called it on the other section a epoxy. It's possible that that could be reactive aggregate of some sort. As isolated as it is, one might expect it to be something of that nature. I can't really believe they'd come out and epoxy inject just a couple cracks. However, by the same token, I can't imagine that only a couple cracks would have alkali aggregate or other active reactive aggregate activity. Could be anybody's guess as to what that is. Again, you can see all the deflectors are present. One's kind of gotten dinged there, but they're both still there. traffic monitoring loops right up there. There's a box and the loops out in the lane. So again, traffic data is immediately adjacent to the site. I'll go ahead and walk through this section just to try and give you a better feel for or another perspective, I should say, what we've got out here. Again, the cracks appear more noticeably when walking with the traffic. I won't pretend that I know exactly why that phenomenon occurs. You might be able to see from this angle it's pretty difficult to identify any of the transverse cracks. We did identify, I identified about 25 to 30 cracks per 100-foot section. So crack spacing is starting to get pretty close here. Like I pointed out earlier, you can tell the section is a little bit older just from the fact that all of the texture is gone. That and the fact that they don't have concrete shoulders out here. Since about 1980, almost every concrete pavement's had concrete shoulders placed adjacent to it in any new construction. So this section is at least 10 years old. I'd have to check my records to identify exactly how old it is. We are on Interstate 820, that's the loop around Fort Worth. You can see it carries a phenomenal amount of traffic. See, it looks like someone's gouged a nice groove here in the pavement. It's interesting that there was some longitudinal cracking just before the section started, but I did not note any within the actual 500-foot test section itself.